All right, what's up, Trash Talkers? What's up, Gruntworks Nation? We are live, all right, for your first ever episode of the TOC Monkey, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this, and it is titled accurately to where it's "Get Your Real News from the TOC Monkey," and that is not his VTT's official name yet. We have kind of a quasi one. We'll see how it lands. We're gonna call him VTT's targeting officer. All right, you know him as Tanner Port. He is always on the podcast, starting some kind of scramble. We're getting something going. All right, we're getting something fired up, and Tanner's always the one at the lead. He's the charge. He's the one making change in the veteran community. And we decided, over a few bourbons, maybe a little bit of nature's plant that, we want to set the record straight, and we want to talk some geopolitics because everybody on Facebook is a geopolitical expert, and sometimes it's just like, hey, back off here a little bit. All right, let's talk about this. Let's think about what we're saying. So if you are a geopolitical fan, if you like to get mixed up in the Facebook terrorist that is the big Earl, and or just talk about what's happening in Iran and China, anywhere. All right, this is the show for you to watch. It's probably going to be a little rough for the first 3 or 4 episodes until we get things hashed out. But I'm excited because the great VTT's targeting officer, Tanner Port, has come up with something amazing. And I'm going to turn over to him now because while he is introducing what this show is all about, I'm going to share it on the Big Girls page because we got to fix that intro video to give me about another minute to share everything. So, all right, T, take it over.
Yeah, that's fair, man. So like Big Earl Nick said, like this kind of happened. Me and him been going back and forth for like a year or so about just random ideas, and he finally talked me into this because I'd made this website called TOC MONKEY, and I made it out of frustration. Right, that's the first thing I want everybody to understand is that I don't think I'm smarter than any other person in this world for sure. But I do live in like the nicest double wide east of the Mississippi. So for whatever that's worth, I need
you made it, bro.
Hey man, we got the leather, we doing some things out here out in Sampson County, North Carolina. But Nick's old was a leader of mine when I was in the 82nd down there in Charlie Rock, 2505. So first and foremost, I'm just a paratrooper trying to figure this world out. And so what ended up happening, and maybe this will resonate with some of y'all, like fake news and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not necessarily a believer that everybody's out there trying to do the wrong thing and mislead people, but there's a lot of money involved in pushing a narrative. And then there's algorithms, and there's all, your timeline. Like, I don't know about y'all right now, my Twitter timeline's filled with nothing but Confederate apologists, which makes it real weird. So I was like, you know what, I'm over it. And with the use of AI, I was just like created my own little news site just for me. So when we're about to show you, like, I made this for me. So that doesn't mean I'm above it. Hey man, fix this, fix that. Like, hey, this ain't right, this ain't right. But what I need you to understand when you go to TOCMONKEY.com is this is a starting place. This is not law, right? This is scraped across the internet. And essentially, it's a way for me to kind of start narrowing down on what may or may not be the truth. And that's really all I think me and Nick are going to try to present in this show, is essentially just talking about really complex issues in a serious way. Obviously, we're going to be joking a lot and using our own kind of paratrooper metaphors for things. But, I'm always open to learn, so I'm always open for feedback. So if in the comments you just think I'm the dumbest MFer on the planet, please say so, right? That being said, I am a PhD student writing my dissertation. So while I know,
just gonna throw that out there.
But what I tell people is what I learned about what this PhD program taught me is how dumb I really was, right? And so, and I sincerely mean that. But it did make me a pretty good researcher. So, like, if you got a grain of truth, or if there's a hole in the game that I'm missing, please tell me, because at the end of the day, like, that's the stuff that I like to nerd out about. Like, okay, I didn't see it like that. Let me, like, run down that rabbit hole. And so Nick reached out. I went out to LA to see him, and he hooked me up with a sweet football game, and then he also hooked me up and supported AUSA via VTT.
That was Gruntworks. That was shout out to Gruntworks. Gruntworks did that. Yeah, all you guys buying shirts at Gruntworks helped out a lot of kids get scholarships to college.
Really appreciate absolutely, that, man. It's all going to a good cause, and ultimately we're just two old paratroopers that like to drink a little bit and shoot the shit, and then talk about really complex things, because obviously we can solve all the world's problems from a backyard, and that's what this show's about, man. So now are we good, Nick? You ready?
We are good. I'm going to share it in a second. So what I'm about to show you guys, and now can the audience go on this website right now? Is it live? Can they go to TOC Monkey and follow what we're talking about? So you guys can go to TOC Monkey on, like, and keep watching the show, right? But use a different device and go to TOCMONKEY.com?
Yes, sir.
That might not spell it right. I'm going to try to type it here in the chat. So our producer, the Marine, we got him on the ear, but he's playing pool right now. He pretends like he's good at pool. I don't think he's any good at pool. I think he sucks. I mean, he's not at our level.
He definitely had one in a lesbian bar on Bragg Road.
Jack's Tap, baby. Let's go.
Jack's Tap, baby. Shout out to Jack.
Let's go. Yeah, shout out to Jack's Tap. So, what Tanner just explained to all y'all is what's called imposter syndrome. All right, like he's not that smart. He doesn't know what he's doing. But no, he does know what he's doing. He's come a long way, and I like to see it. And I like to put it this way: I host a fight show where this is going to be the opposite of the fight show, to where I didn't know anything about UFC 4 years ago, and now I know a lot about UFC because I listened to Bill and Joe talk about it, and they tend to be extremely accurate, like they were on Saturday. It made a lot of good money for us.
Hell yeah.
On the geopolitical side, this is where my problem comes in, Tanner. Before we share the website, just to kind of get it kicked off, is I am against the chatGPT scholars. And as you are studying, you'll back me up or tell me I'm wrong on this. But when you ChatGPT something, you get a consensus, right, which is probably pretty close to accurate, but you're not getting any of the qualitative data that went into the years and sometimes a lifetime of research that ChatGPT just all of a sudden put together for you, right? And now you just go out on Facebook and say, this is what's happening. And it's like, is it though?
Man, I think you're absolutely right. I think what people are mistaking is a lot of people don't understand how you should really use these LLMs, like these large language models, what they're great at is two things. They're good at hallucinating source consensus, and then they're also really good though at finding archives. So what I will give ChatGPT credit for, or any AI, like I personally, I've kind of migrated to Claude and Anthropic just because, in my opinion, it's a superior platform. However, it makes mistakes all the time. Like, and so a lot of people I think approach AI with like, oh, it just has the answer. No, think about it as a research assistant. And you should be able to go like, hey, provide the link that the question I always ask, hey, provide the link that you source that at, and then go actually put your damn eyes on the source, right? To make sure it didn't recombobulate the word. So it's like a better Google, you know what I mean? For sure, I would say that, but it is absolutely not like, you should not take anything as it says it's law. Like I prove it wrong daily. Like I use AI a lot. But as a research tool, not as, because there's so many archives out there and databases that I'll never learn, right? Like I don't even know they exist. They're just there. So you get it to point you in the direction, and then you need to follow that up and go actually, verify the data, not just spit out the, hey, what's wrong? How do you win the war in the Middle East? And then copy and paste that into your post. And then, that, which we see a lot of, right? We all got friends that do that. And it's like, like not the way to use the tool for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. So those of you watching, we're going to get into what he has created on his website. We're going to put it up there, and then we're going to try to talk about a few topics centered around what's going on right now in the Strait of Hormuz, and what I look at it with somebody, and like I said, it's the opposite of the fight show, to where I used to study a lot, I used to read a lot, so I'm also selfishly glad that this show's starting, because I'm going to start reading again. Right. and getting back into it. So I used to study a lot academically. Like I took a class every semester that I was in the Army. I think I had like 300 something freaking credits by the time I got out of the Army. And just because, why not? It was free, right? I could get the books from the library. I could find out about the Tet Offensive, because I heard somebody talking about it. I watched it on the History Channel. Well, I could take a class in it, and the Army paid for it. So it was super cool to read that stuff. So looking forward to getting back into it. And like, as I said, you might be able to ChatGPT or Wikipedia something, but there's a lot of people who put hours and hours and months and years and lifetimes researching things. And I'm going to hit it up before I start this. Should we share the screen? Is history should be about factual events, and then your opinion about it, right? So fact, it happened. Why did it happen, right? And then that's where we start to get all of that, qualitative data on why it happened. Quantitative, we could say why it happened. This is what happened. This time people were killed. This is the war that started. Why did it happen? But all right, let's share this screen here. Let me see if I can do this right, because I am new at this. I'm already can't find it, so I wonder where it went. Oh yeah, it's over here. Okay, all right, boom, 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 boom. This is the website that Tanner created. Hey, you're watching. All right, and I got to press Shift 5. Boom. All right, well, I did it, Chris. You see it? You see that? You're playing pool, but I did it.
You can be caught. All right, y'all. So
what do we got here? What is this?
Yeah, so what you're looking at is essentially a solid AI scrape of all the open source websites that are curated by me. So as you look at this on that bottom row, you can kind of see the hits of like the main websites I use. If there's one that you recommend, please just drop it in the chat, and I'll add it into the algorithm, and it'll feed it as well. On the left side, if you actually went to the website, I don't know if you can see it on this screen, but it just generates real quick for me like a last 24 hours of what's happened, right? Like the major events, and I have it splitting up in nerd talk that I like, situation, right? Key activity indicators, and then like the assessment. Now, remember what I'm saying, like, don't take that as law. That's like critical that you do understand like how I kind of use this as a tool. I would never just copy and paste that and be like, this is what's happening, right? Like that just gives me, okay, now I need to go dig here, dig there. And I organized it by combatant commands. For those that aren't familiar, the Department of War splits the world up into combatant commands, right? And so I have it by EUCOM, CENTCOM, INDOPACOM, AFRICOM, SOUTHCOM, and NORTHCOM. Now, for the nerds out there, yes, I know that some of those are collapsing and moving. Like, again, for me, whatever. I will eventually, we'll keep driving on it. So today, me and Nick are going to be talking about CENTCOM, right? And so for those that didn't know, CENTCOM, you just saw him today testifying on the Hill. The CENTCOM commander, what is it, Admiral Bradley? Sweet name. He got up there and he was basically talking about the Strait of Hormuz. That's like the hot button issue, right? That's every time you fill up, you can, that's why it's $5. And so then elsewhere on the site, right, you've got like a SIGAX, which is just pulled. It looks a little jacked up right now, but they're all there. Those work, and you can click, and that's just basically what is happening in that COCOM and news that's appropriate. The one above it, the OSIN, is like pulled off of people's Twitter feeds and stuff, and like just kind of main things that you can read. And then probably my favorite part is over there on the right, which is the task organization, for you real nerds out there. We got the IRGC here, right? And then it breaks down their elements. If we go to the quiz force, you can pull here, and this will grow as we go, but it gives you all who's allowed, and then you can like literally just go to the, right now, some of them are to the WEG, some of them are to other sites, some of them are just to Wikipedia, right? That'll link you to there. So if there's a piece of equipment that you're worried about, absolutely, that's a good reference. And for you like Geardos out there or Rock V, like nerds out there, you can go to that and like check it out. And then the back is just like sources that, or the bottom right is just sources. And then I got the sports ticker at the top, right? Because that's important. Like, I don't want to have to keep going everywhere. That's pulled straight from ESPN. And then I had the Dow Jones and stuff, that's a different API. We'll talk about that later.
You can't even spell Dow Jones.
So essentially it's built to be a one-stop shop to really quick, just, like how we used to call Reddit the first page, the front page of the internet. I basically just tried to do that. So that is in a nutshell what the site is. I hope y'all enjoy it. If not, cool, just let me know. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely open to feedback. And yeah, Nick, your thoughts?
No, yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. So we're going to be able to use this website to, in real time, show you what we're talking about and why things are important on the geopolitical scale. And Tanner's heard me say this in private. I haven't really come out publicly and said it a lot, but there are people in a room that are controlling this world, right? Anybody who doesn't think that there aren't people that are making decisions that affect everybody, right? And again, here's my opinion. I don't think it's the president, all right? The president is the one that gets the credit or takes the fall, right? So, and this is where the president's job in the State Department is to appoint people in his cabinets that, whether they agree with him or they don't agree with him or her, whatever. We haven't had a female president yet. We'll get there. But like that, they're informing them to make a decision. And I have some insider info from a master's level class at Yale that what they're teaching these students in geopolitical thinking to do, right, is the president has to make a decision in 6 days. Here's the situation in this country, this country, this country, this country, this country, this country. Course of action 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of those have consequences that are dire to one of those other countries, right? And if you look at presidents, like especially like the Big O. Big O is one of my favorite presidents to hear talk, to hear speak, to watch on camera. You watched him age about 40 years in 2 years. Right, because you go into a briefing room and you're like, I'm going to put 3 countries into famine by doing this, right? And us in our little bubble in America, we don't really pay attention to it. And then when we get, and again, we earn that bubble though, so don't get me wrong. I freaking love America, everything about it. But this is where I like to say, like, before you jump on the gun and start shooting your mouth off about why you think we're in Iran, right? We're going to go to Iran. Why are we doing this in Iran? I want you to stop and think, what year do you think we're in to this plan in Iran? Do you think it just happened on a whim, right? Do you think it happened over the weekend where they were like, hey, now's the time, let's do it? Whiskey Pete, doing a little bourbon drinking with Trump, and it's like, you know what, it's time, right? We're doing it. I don't think that's what happened. Is it possible? Yes, but but I don't think that's what happened. So I started doing some research, and I'm going to throw some credit out there to myself because that's what I do. A long time ago, before I even knew Tanner, is I'm thinking we're in a war in Iraq. We were already in Afghanistan. What are we surrounding? Right? We're surrounding Iran. I don't know the geopolitical play there. I wasn't even thinking about it then, and then I got more educated, started looking into it. So again, guys, please get in the comments and talk about why are we in Iran? What are we doing in Iran right now? What are we doing? What do you think we're doing there? So, and then I was watching Fox Business News. All right, don't get all triggered that I said Fox. Fox Business News, right? I like money. I watch it to find out who's making moves, and who I'm going to invest in. Has nothing to do with what's going on in Iran. And a lady was on there talking about how China has been importing more oil than they need from Iran. That way more than they've needed. So they're spending a bunch of money on oil. Why are they doing that? Right? Is there something that they knew that was going to happen, i.e. the Strait of Hormuz was going to be shut down, and now they're selling oil on what market? I don't know. Maybe the TOC monkey knows. But maybe Tanner, maybe you could show the importance of the Strait of Hormuz. What is it? Why? Like, who is operating there? And there is a geopolitical theory that I've heard, that I've seen come across from educated people, that we were kind of allowing Russia and China to, not necessarily allowing, it was a byproduct of it, to where they were getting kind of fat off Iran.
Yep.
And then we see some of the European NATO countries say, hey, we'll buy oil from Iran using the euro. And this is the big Earl's opinion geopolitically, is that as soon as that happened, as soon as they said that there's NATO countries that might buy Iranian oil with the euro, don't ever mess with American money.
Yeah. Petrodollar, man, it's a big deal.
The petrodollar. Let's talk about that. Show the Strait of Hormuz. Talk about the petrodollar. What do you think is going on here? World's longest game of Stratego. That's right, Chelsea. That's right.
Yeah. There's a great book out there called The Prize. I'll drop. I think it was Yervin that wrote it. It really does a great job of articulating, going all the way back to like Rockefeller, like oil, and then Aramco with Saudi Arabia, and then how like the Middle Eastern oil fields got opened up. If you fast forward, obviously, to the 70s, in the late 70s, obviously, we're not going to rehash a lot of Iranian history here, but like, the Ayatollah comes to power. We have the hostage crisis, and the IRGC becomes. And so this is, I think, let me be very clear. I am not a fan of Iran, right? They have tried to kill me a couple times. They've killed a couple of my friends. I can't stand these assholes. These are fanatical people, and I'm talking about the leadership here, and I'm also talking about the IRGC specifically, because in my
hold on real quick. Is this number accurate, Tanner? 60% of Iran is still technically Persian.
Yes, that's right. That's about right.
And the IGRC is like 5% of the country, and they're in charge.
Yeah, but I think we have a bad problem in the West, right, of looking at things, what I would call in academics, for all the nerds out there, like a top-down thing, where it's like we look at Washington, D.C., and we say, okay, that's who like makes it, right? And then, but we all inherently understand that the local community, like I'm a big advocate that like your county sheriff affects your life a hell of a lot more than Washington, D.C. ever will. What you have to understand about Iran is the IRGC is the same way. So while it's a smaller group, they're at every single level of society, right? And so like there's a company called about 300 dudes in about every small regional area, and they're bureaucrats, for if you wanted to think about it like that, right? They're like a kind of a quasi police force in some instances, but they're the bureaucrats. They're the guys that influence your permit for your house getting built and everything like that. So they're like deeply embedded in Iranian society. It's not the Western way of looking at like how our military, we had the civil military divide and that separation that we're real proud of. It's the exact opposite there. And that is where this gets weird, right? Because it really goes that when people talk about decapitation strikes, right? Like, so for those uninitiated, if you've been asleep under a rock and you're wondering why gas is $4 plus whatever, if you drive a diesel, it's costing you $150 to fill up. 28th of February, right? We kick it off with Israel, and we take out what is billed at the time a decapitation strike. We kill like the top 40 guys in one strike, and then throughout the next couple of days, they kill like the leading class at the IRGC, and the government as a whole. The reaction to that was not unanticipated. Look, CENTCOM is very good at what they do. And to your point, why China was buying this, we've been telegraphing this for a while, right? This summer, if you're paying attention, when we hit their nuke sites, okay, they're doing something. So China hedges its bets because it's a centralized economy, right? And they can do that. And so they start upping their oil because in their head, they're reading the tea leaves and they're saying, and they also have intelligence. It's not like, China's out there just not knowing anything, right? Like they pay a lot of money.
Yeah, California mayor just got indicted.
Yeah, what's going on out there, Chinese. Man? Got the mayor.
Well, if you ever go to the Ontario region or the OC, just outside the OC, there ain't too much English on the buildings.
What a great
putting that
story.
Out there.
They literally got a mayor elected. Like, good for them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because that'll probably they're running towns in America. God, Lord have mercy.
They 100% are buying up all the property too.
Yeah, and I think that's where our education system has failed us, is that we think everybody looks at war the way we do, right? There was this really smart dude I talked to once, me and you talked about this in your backyard. He changed my worldview. The old War College professor, but now he works at Florida State University. I was down there last year presenting a paper about endgame, which is how we end wars. It was me trying to nerd out, and I gave my whole spiel. I felt real good about it, and at the end of it, he's like, "Nah, man, like that's a real Western way to look at this." And I didn't know what the hell I knew what he meant because I'm familiar with Sun Tzu, and I get it. But he was like, "What if I told you that?" We look at war like, okay, now we're going to war and bombs start falling. He's like, and that's how you conceptualize. That's how I think the majority of us in the West see war, right? He's like, what if I told you they didn't look at it that way, right? Like, what if I told you it's been on since, they won their civil war and took power? And he was like, in every single element of national power, they are leveraging like nonstop with a war mentality. He's like, would that change the way you analyze some of these things? And it did. So it's not surprising to me that when China starts reading tea leaves, they're like, okay, up the oil intake. And then the second part of that, I think that we struggle with is thinking that everybody, we got the Epstein class and we got billionaires and we got all this stuff. But for the most part, most Americans, we have a representative government. And I don't think a lot of us in the West appreciate that a large portion of the world does not operate that way. That it is strong man-led oligarchs and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I want to stress, like, where I question my question is I don't understand necessarily where I do believe I understand the end game, which is to repivot, to squash this now. Before it becomes a larger problem and try to pull countries away from China, right? Or take some decks out of their, or some cards out of their deck to say away. I do have questions about the strategy, and this is why. And then we'll talk about specifically the Strait of Hormuz. When you look at decapitation strikes, I think it's like, okay, we cut the head off the snake, the body will wiggle. I think that's the wrong way to frame this. Philosophically, I would say this is more like a tree, right? And the IRGC is the roots, right? So as we chop off the leaves and we keep chopping at the top of the tree, like you're not going to touch what is like how ingrained they are in their society. They've been preparing for this moment for 4 decades. And they did what we thought. A lot of people inside the national security and foreign policy, they did. Nick, what frustrates me is like when Fox News and some of the CNN people and now Iran realizes it's got something bigger than nuclear bomb and has the Strait of Hormuz, and like they accidentally learned that they had this thing that could completely mess up. No, dude, they've known the entire time, right? This is not like shocking breaking news that Iran figured out that if they shut off 20% of the oil in the world, that it would cause problems, right? Like that is not, they're not that dumb, and I don't want to, I think that underestimating your enemy type of stuff. Like guys, like they're working a plan, and if you think that they're not, like I would offer you're not being very serious about the situation we're in. So that's kind of where we're at. So the Strait of Hormuz, 21 miles long, narrow point. If you look at the website, I got the majority of the oil fields they look like little oil barrels there. And
yeah, zoom in on it if you can. Can you zoom in on it?
Yeah, let me see here. Let me see if I can pull one over. So you got these guys right here, right? This is what we got. Yep. Oh, hold on. Let me click. Yeah, so you'll be able to zoom in, and this is like the world's largest national gas field, which is right there on the coast. That's I was obviously pointing out because they get it offshore. And then this has been all up in the news. This is everybody's favorite thing. God bless our paratroopers. I hope to God they can take it one day. Well, I know they will if they get the mission. But that's Carg Island. You've heard about this thing, right? It's where they primarily fill their tankers and then send them out of the Strait of Hormuz. So what's happening right now is we have a U.S. blockade, and this is where I think there's been some misreporting, or just it's kind of like, oh, it's just a blockade. We're actually not really blockading the strait. What we are is blockading Iranian ports, right? And so there's nuance there. The problem is and anybody that's driven down Highway 1 in Afghanistan or Tampa in Iraq is, it doesn't take a lot to get a convoy to turn around, especially like a commercial one, right? That's what a lot of us spent a lot of time in Afghanistan trying to make sure that the jingle trucks could get up and down the highway. I would offer that the Strait of Hormuz is the equivalent of the Tangi Valley, right? Like that, the terrain on both sides is pretty rough. It's densely populated. It's easy to hide. These speedboats. Think about every marina. Like I think people have this misconception that this is like this desolate. No, dude. Think about like Miami, right? And not necessarily population wise, but just the amount of marinas and speedboats and just how many assets it actually takes to keep an eye on everything. Because as the majority of the veterans know, like we got to be perfect. We got to bat 1,000. They got to be right one time, right? And they know that. Right, because it's the world exporter. They're the largest exporter of terrorism in the world. It's safe to say that they're kind of good at it, and that's kind of where I approach this, not questioning at all the joint forces' ability to do any mission that it's assigned. I look at the joint force as like a Lamborghini, right? Like high performance vehicle. Like we can do just about anything. My issue is we keep giving the keys to guys that can't drive stick shift. Right. And that's kind of like, if you want to know like my political step, I'm like, man, we could do that. But, everybody got all crazy when they're like, hey, they're going to go in and take the enriched uranium. And I'm sitting there thinking like my boys could do it. You know what I mean? It'd be bloody. Like it wouldn't be perfect, but we could absolutely do it. So, I understand now it's real in vogue to say anybody that's questioning not necessarily what's going on, because I'm not questioning the conflict. But ultimately my point is like, that doesn't make you unpatriotic. Like those are me and Nick's friends out there. We want to make sure they're, somebody's driving a Lamborghini that like has a vision. Right. So that is essentially where we're at. We've been there for 2 months now, going on 3. And we just went to China. President Trump went to China today or yesterday. We're all kind of sitting to wait to see what China's going to do. Personally, I think they're playing us. Like that. This is.
Let me get into that. Let me get into that with an opinion. because it kind of goes way back to it. We got Chelsea saying similar to someone tried to blockade the intercoastal and the ports between Orange and Houston.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good comparison. Like, it would be that tough because we'd be running stuff up the Nature's River, man. Like, you're.
And then Sylvia says, reviewing this, reading these in real time with y'all, I feel geopolitically ignorant. And again, that's not hard to be, Sylvia. Like, I am geopolitically ignorant, and I actually take pride in knowing a lot about geopolitics. And there are just some things where you say, I don't know, right? And one of my favorite, lines in a movie, because I think Hollywood runs the world, is, Jack Ryan, played by Ben Affleck, where Morgan Freeman leans back and goes, "You don't know." Like, that's how you answer that question. You don't know. Don't give some answer that you like. There's a lot to that answer. It's not just yes or no, right? So, like, there's a lot more to it, and that's kind of what I want to get into. So here's my opinion. I kind of talked to you about it, Tanner, before the show, earlier in the week, to go back to the detente with China, right? The start of the Cold War. We're making China a power, and we're doing it so that they fight Russia, the Sino-Soviet split, right? And there's a lot of declassified material on this, guys, so go do your research on it. There was a lot of backroom talks that I talk about that are happening now that are not declassified. You can read those backroom talks that happened in the 50s and 60s. And it's like there's some real powerful stuff with a lot of geopolitical think tankers in there saying you can't do that, but you couldn't do that. You can do that, but don't do that. I.e., the blockade of Cuba. When Kennedy asked, should we invade Cuba? And there's a guy by the name of Rostow, right? If you look at research it, that guy was appointed to positions, and a lot of times he was in the room with no appointed position, right? Yeah. He's just the guy. He's the dude. And he goes, if you invade Cuba for that reason, Russia will invade Turkey the next day. Mm-hmm. And it was like just something like, should I not worry about the Epstein files anymore? They've been released, Sylvia. Have you read them all? All right. So we know whose names are redacted in there. But no, so this goes back. I'm going to skip over like 30 years because we don't have the time for it. Maybe we get into another show. But we build China up. And then if you even go back before that, even in World War I, there was a treaty signed that nobody would fuck around with China. Yeah. Right? Because that was a trade route and everybody had their piece of it. We sent Marines to China because we were making sure that our portion of China, was good. And this is, prior to World War II. So now that they've become this power that I'm going to say we built, right? We built this power up because we wanted the two communist countries to hate each other, right? The Sino-Soviet split. Go look at it. Every administration since I've been of voting age, and I'm 45 years old, has said that Iran is bad. Iran can't have nukes. If Iran crosses line, we do X.
Right.
No administration has done that. No administration has said, you know what? You crossed it. I'm doing something about it.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think Trump's making the call, but here's where I talk to Tanner. This is my opinion. Here comes the opinion. Everybody's been sitting there waiting. Trump ran in 2016 as an isolationist.
Yeah.
Right. He said no new wars. Like, I'm this guy. I don't like that we pay for all of NATO. Right. NAFTA's crap. Right. Like all these things. And he says, here's my opinion. I think this time around, when he got in office, in his cabinet and in his geopolitical think tank, he was like, find me a way that makes sense that I finally get to just fucking bomb Iran, stop what they're doing. I'm going to go to Venezuela, where we used to get 90% of our oil from. I'm going to take out Maduro, and set up our little puppet government there and make sure we're getting and send Chevron back in there. And then here's the point that American people, I think, don't get, and they just don't understand it, is we might bitch about $5 gallon of gas, but you're still filling your gas tank. Like, there's other countries that absolutely cannot handle that. Because like you talked about earlier, Tanner, your point I think is accurate, where there's countries that are not run the way we are run.
Yeah.
So when you fuck with one of their resources, you hurt them. Like, you hurt them bad. So Tanner, I'm saying Trump finally found a way to do something that I think people in the geopolitical think tank wanted to do, but really couldn't find a way to do it.
Yeah,
so now we have a way to do it. And how do we do it? We let Russia and Iran get fat. Let Russia and China get fat off Iran, and that can be the scapegoat to the American people, that we can't let them do this.
Yeah, no, I think I agree that is probably the logic being used, right? That like where I push back, right, is that the cost of this in this latest, and I say this with no like emotional attachment to it. So this is me trying to be super objective.
Right.
Is that in a sense, the second term we have seen the POTUS essentially try to change what was the post-World War II order, right? And on a couple different fronts, whether it be NATO, the Venezuela action was extremely unique, you know, and kind of and strategically and militarily executed beautifully. And you know, we'll kind of see how that plays out. What's up?
It was a gorgeous operation.
Yeah, if you're a nerd like me, like battle calculus and just like the effects that were layered, like that is the joint force at its best, with a clear mission, which is really my point here. But where I think we are getting off the rails a little bit, and to your point, if you're saying, okay, you know, I don't think he's making the decisions. He's definitely influenced, right? But he is the go guy, right? He's got to give the go. And I think what we're seeing now is a rise of what we saw, like with the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans, of like big men history, like, you know, great man history type of things. And that is in direct competition with the post-World War II order. And so I think that's where some people get caught up, because this is, for a sense, like abnormal, right? He's doing something that everybody wanted to do, but this isn't the way it's supposed to happen, right? We're supposed to go to Congress, we're supposed to go to UN, we're supposed to build a coalition, then we're supposed to go all these things. That's not what happened. For better or worse, like, you can make your own judgment, y'all, if you think that the world needed a jolt. But now, okay, we've made that jolt. That jolt has happened, right? And now we're gonna just have to see whose strategy was better. And that's really the interesting part to me. Is it's like, okay, we have China, who I think is lying straight to our face as these talks happen. Russia, obviously, lying straight to our face. Like, that's just what they do. And to me, when I look at them, you have the centralized economy in China, and then you have the oligarchs inside of Russia. And regardless of how their populations or their national GDP is based, these guys are making money hand over fist, because they operate in a different world.
And pull up that one thing you were talking about when you talk about that, where with the oil in Malaysia, that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of you might have seen a couple weeks ago, or about 2 weeks ago, we started seizing boats off the coast of India. And then everybody, you know, CNN, I watched them.
I'm going to tell you right now, nobody was paying attention to that. Yeah, nobody was. CNN, you were. The TOC Monkey was.
CNN freaks out, and they're like, "Oh my God, this war has spread." Well, they just like, let me just be clear: we're in a world war, y'all. You just haven't, you know, what's the song? Like, you better start believing in, like, from what movie is that? It's the one with Johnny Depp. He's the pirate. And he's like, you better start believing you're in a horror story. You're in one. You know what I mean? Like, guys, we're in a world war. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, whatever. But What's happening is outside of the Strait of Hormuz, you've probably heard about the ghost fleets and everything like that. But what it really is the this is nerd stuff, but the legalese of international, maritime law. And there's a little
Yeah,
area
hold
right
on.
here.
Sylvia says looks like a Christmas tree. No, hey,
Yeah.
we're getting there, Sylvia. Let them zoom in. We're getting there.
So what
All
you're
right,
looking
let them
at,
get there.
y'all, is all the maritime traffic in the world, right? This is You can link to this at the bottom of Talk Monkey, but this is essentially all the boats moving, right? And you can go in, and the area we're talking about is the eastern outer port limits. It's about 43 miles off of Malaysia's coast, right? And then you can kind of look, and you can just go by boat, right? If you just want to check it out. But you notice none of these guys are just kind of sitting here. What that is like, think about it like a part, like your Amazon drop spot in a parking lot, right? So these ghost fleet guys uh, basically take oil from sanctioned ports. They go out here in the middle of what we would call no man's land, um, and essentially park. And then boats from other countries, like legit boats, like that are flagged by other countries, then they come there and they do transfer to transfer of like gas or liquid, liquid gas or just oil or whatever. And so just in 2023 we had 280 ship to ship transfers. In 2024 there was 471, and then there's been 250 in January alone, like through April 1st. So like what you're seeing is like when we talk about these blockades and everything, and this is to the point of like other countries aren't grand like ours. When you're worried about, oh well, we got sanctions and we got everything, guys, the guys that are in control of those countries, this is how they make their money. This is how they pay for their personal security. This is how they pay for the army's payroll. This is like the bankrolling of, bad dudes across the world. This is James Bond shit, to like put it in like just no other kind of words, right? And so they transfer this oil and then they move it and then they sell it. It's a border problem. Now, a lot of people here understand border problems because we had one, right? Like we had the south border. So if you're struggling to conceptualize this, just think about the cartels and how they operate in Mexico. Now, put that on a worldwide scale with a product that makes a lot more money, and that's oil, right? And that's what's occurring kind of in that South China Sea. So when people say, "Oh, CENTCOM's the show," like mill guys will understand this. Like it's like, oh, we always cut away from Indo-PACOM, right? And then we give all the assets to CENTCOM, right? Well, this area is technically an Indo-PACOM area, right, of their operations. However, it's the CENTCOMs kind of has the fight, right? And so they have to work together. So it might be a framing problem, and I think we've seen that out of the administration. When Mingus was there, a lot of these guys, and the last Joint Chief was Millie was smart on this stuff, whether you hate him or not, right? Like it, and I think,
I don't think anybody. We'll get into that. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off on your point.
No, you're good. I think we're seeing this pivot, but the pivot's happening along with so much other stuff that it's the talking heads of the world just focus on that and then point to somebody being incompetent, which I think goes to your point that there's a lot of shit going on, guys, and like it's if you're used to looking at the world through a soda straw, it's you can be easily triggered to think that we're way off the reservation. So whereas, do I think we have a great strategy right now with Iran? No, personally, because but we don't have the political will to do what I think we would need to do, which is probably put about 80,000 guys on the strait and own that terrain and dominate. But there's no. Do I want my friends to have to do that? No. But if you want my candid opinion on how you change this situation for real, like to do what I think Trump is trying to do with the pivot, you know what I mean? To like actually shake up like this new world order. Because if you half-ass this, like we're gonna like, in my opinion, if we half-ass this, we end up worse off personally, right? Because China will continue to support them, Russia will continue to support them, they'll keep them alive as long as those guys can pay the IRGC down to the county level, which by all accounts they can. They'll kill their population. They don't give a shit about them. They've proven that, and so I think that's kind of the rub right now. And I think that's why the China trip happened, right? Because that was the missing piece. Okay, it didn't. The think tank guys are wrong. Killing the Ayatollah didn't work. The population didn't rise and take over, which I didn't think was a great take. But whatever, I get it if you think that's going to happen.
So
but now
how
China's
long do you think?
got to
How
get
long do
China
you
in the game.
think we'll be alive? You think we'll be alive to see the person in the room that was like, "Hey, chop off the head of the Ayatollah, watch the Persians rise," and then you brought it up to where, again, it's not you're more educated than most people in this. However, you're not the geopolitical Yale guy either.
No,
That spent their whole life doing this, and you'll get there because you're getting your PhD, and you'll get there. But like,
I think Rubio told the truth.
Like, I'm not even going to argue with you. Like, I tell people all the time, I go, we still have bases in Japan, like we still have bases in Germany, like you can't leave. Like, and then Thomas Jefferson said it. He goes, people like you talked about earlier. This is the guy, a founding father, said that the kind of government we're starting is kind of new, and people aren't going to understand it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to we're going to have to pretty much militarily force it, and or be the light to an educated country that sees it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so they're getting control at the local level. How are they going to do anything unless we're on the ground?
Yeah, and then I counter, like, we've lived this, and that's kind of the struggle. Is most of this to me was, and I'm glad Rubio went to China, but I think Rubio told the truth in the first 24 hours. I think he messed up. He didn't get the talking points, and he just kept it real. And he was like, look, like, ultimately, and anybody that's been in Kuwait, anybody that's been anywhere in Iraq, like, I was there when they hit us with ballistic missiles in 2019 or 2020, sorry. And like, we were not postured for that fight. And so we've spent the last 5 years drawing down dramatically to get smaller. So we weren't as susceptible to that stuff. And ultimately, I think, when Rubio was like, Israel was going to go, and we knew once they went, right, because our intel's pretty damn good, guys, that they were going to do what they did, which is like slap every single base that they could reach with ballistic missiles. Oh, by the way, they're fed that intel from Russia and China. And so we had to go too, right? Because I give a lot of grace and empathy with that. Now, could there have been a conversation where we could have asked them not to? That ain't up for me. That's our political class. But whatever, it didn't happen. Whatever. So,
like I said, I think Trump found a way to make sure it did happen.
Yeah, which might be true. We'll never be in the room. I think obviously Netanyahu has a huge vote in this, but from the reaction from the joint force side, I think, looking at it as a paratrooper, like, I think Rubio laid it out pretty clear in that first 24 hours. Like, look, they were going to go, so we had to, because we were postured in a way that we would have had mass casualties. And I believe them, like, having lived through just a small portion of what those guys over the last, especially in that first week, felt like absolutely understood that, yeah, man, we're not postured very well for this. So we have to go offensive. And I respect what the joint force, like, I know it sucks, man, that we lost guys, but like, if you've ever been over there, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And that is strictly due to the professionalism of the joint force. And y'all should go to bed every night thanking God you got dudes like out there that can operate like that. And that's just my personal opinion on it. You're never going to hear me downplay them dudes on this fucking show. Like, they absolutely made it happen, and but what sucks, right? It's like, they only got to be right once. We got to be perfect, right? Or else, and now it's an international incident.
So, and something American, and then I'll kind of, we got a couple of minutes left. Something that you understand, obviously, and a lot of the warfighters watching understand. When we were transitioning back to full spectrum operations training in the Army and getting rid of the GWAT, like, I made it very clear, because I was a first sergeant. So I was like, our job traditionally, when the GWAT is CASEVAC, in the operation, like, and I'm sitting here telling guys, I'm like, we're not doing CASEVAC. Right, we're gonna treat in place. They're gonna do self-aid, and we're gonna keep fighting.
Gotta keep going.
And I go, when old Top finally gets there to the objective, right? Like, maybe then I'll consolidate some casualties, and maybe we'll get some out. I go, what we're going to do though is we're going to get enough dirt to bury our guys. Like that's what a full spectrum operation is. And so those like I'm glad you brought up the way you did, Tanner, with like, we lost some guys, but when you bring in ballistic missiles and when you bring in like some of these weapons that we didn't have to really face in the GWAT, like you're talking an entire battalion can get wiped out if those are on point.
Bro, look, I remember distinctly, and DTT page, you assholes that were in the comments, when them kids at AAAB got hit by like 18 of these things, right? And I had a battery out there. Now the unit that just got lost soldiers, that's a friend of mine's unit, Idaho National Guard. Like rest in peace, man. And those guys are about to rotate out, and I'm glad they're coming home. Shout out to Chief Cruz. But a lot of people were like, "Oh, we took incoming." Like, guys, this is like a fucking school bus flying through the sky with like thousands of pounds of explosive. This is not a 107 rocket, guys, right? Like it hits different. You feel it, and it's a different ball game. And I think that's going to be, veteran on veteran hate of us like getting over that and just acknowledging like Kuwait's a real deployment now. Like who's going to talk shit on Buring? Buring ain't there, man. They blew up like 2/3 of that damn thing. So it's kind of like, we gotta, go a little bit softer on about when these guys come home and they start telling their stories. I think it's going to be critical for platforms like yours. And just
like yours.
SOs. I remember, true story, and this pissed me off, and I'm not going to call them out by name, but we were sitting in, this was when I was up with the VFW in DC for the legislative week, right? And I'm sitting in, who were we? We were in Pat Harrigan's office, who took tens of $1,000s from a claim shark. We'll talk about that later. But I remember sitting in the office with the old state department commander, so a guy that was in charge of the whole state. And he was like, we're watching Fox News on the thing. And he was like, and this is still when they were trying to sell that it wasn't a war. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even, and he's an older guy, bless his heart. It's a
minor conflict.
Yeah. He's a Cold War vet. So cool. And he was like, it's not a war. And I lost my shit. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, you going to tell those kids when they come home, right, they just ate nothing but drones and ballistic missiles for a week straight, that they weren't in a war, man? Like this is a part of the vet mission now to me. Like and we're gonna have to, who hasn't made a joke about Buring, right? Like right. That's what we do. Or AJ, like, nah, man, them guys got lit up. Like and I think a lot of the open source is starting to like really talk about how much we lost in that first 48 hours. And the fact that we only had the casualties we had it's a miracle, man. And that I applaud CENTCOM for the planning to try to, because they couldn't have had a whole lot of warning. I mean, I'm sure they were postured for it, but to actually put in action, I mean, now we got guys in hotels, like, and that's not cool like that. I mean, it's cool for them. They're probably having a blast. Shout out to anybody. I don't know if you can get alcohol in Kuwait City, like at the bar, but I hope they
got the western part of the hotel that they're allowed to drink.
Right. Yeah, my boy, hey man, take a shot for us. But like ultimately, to end it, right, I don't think this is going to be resolved anytime soon. If you're worried about gas prices, I don't think you're going to see it fall until the spring of next year, if we're lucky. And I think Iran will continue to string this out as long as they can, because they see the finish line as the midterm. And they have good reason to, if I'm, a Persian asshole.
I'm glad you brought that up. I keep saying, I'm like, if you're going to go on the TDS, if you're going to go on the Trump train, Trump better have something lined up in the next 3 months, or it's going to be a wash.
It's going to be them boys cooked, man. And then they'll come back and start impeaching secretaries and stuff. It'll be and then, we'll have years of dysfunction. And so, yeah, man. I don't really have a closer. How do we close it?
I'll close it. Don't worry. I got you. This is what the host does. I
just want to say, I appreciate the platform. This caught me off guard. But hopefully y'all got something out of it, and then hit me up with recommendations. If there's the goal is to focus on a different area. We're not just going to come up here and bitch about Iran every week, y'all. This was just like what's in the news, but we'll talk about Sudan. We'll talk about I'll come prepped every week to be able to talk about some hot spot in the world or some issue, major geopolitical issue or some conference or whatever, and try to give you an alternate take, and then point you to some sources where you can make up your own mind. And if you disagree with anything me and Nick said, please hit us up. You will get responses from us if you saying some wild shit.
And if you do it at 1 o'clock in the morning, you'll get a quick response. Quick one.
Let us tie one on, and then we'll really start arguing about Clausewitz and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Good looking out. And yeah, man, take us home.
No, yeah, super excited. And remember, I think this is gonna be the tagline that's gonna stick: is get your real news from the TOC Monkey. All right. I think I'll end it with that. But yeah, we got a great show coming up. We got another 2P guy coming on the show. Hopefully, some of the 2P guys can show up, unlike Sylvia, and where none of the 2P guys are able to make it. To be fair, I was the one that found a replacement. All right, the other two did not. Right, and Tanner, you absolutely killed it on that show. Did a great job for VTT. And again, yeah, you come up with an idea like Tanner has. You reach out to us, you reach out to me. We're going to make it happen. We're going to find out how we can help everybody around us. And the biggest takeaway isn't what our opinions were or even what TOCMONKEY.com is. It's our boys are in a war over there. And when they come home, do not be the guy, do not be the bro that says that they weren't in one. All right. Do not do that. So again, we'll cover something new. Maybe we'll cover Venezuela oil. Maybe we'll cover something else next week. We'll let Tanner come up with that because he's the think tank. And then I'm excited because I'm going to start reading about it again, and it's going to be great. But again, get your real news from, hold on, I got to do this slower. Get your real news from the TOC Monkey.